Well, hey guys, let's talk about facial redness with rosacea. In this video, I'm going to give you tips, tricks, and I'm going to talk about skincare products, skincare practices that can help you out in your journey to clearing and preventing worsening of persistent facial redness with rosacea. If you have rosacea, chances are you experience sensitivity, burning, stinging with things that come in contact with the skin, and episodes of flushing and blushing. And over time, that flushing and blushing can lead to persistent facial redness along with dilated blood vessels. Now, people with rosacea also develop little pimple-like bumps called papules. Sometimes these can be filled with pus. Those are called pustules. Most of the treatments that we prescribe to treat rosacea target the papules, the pustules, and some of the symptoms. However, if persistent facial redness is going on, not many topical medications or oral medications adequately address that. And spoiler alert, that tends to be the thing that impacts quality of life in rosacea patients the most. It's the persistent facial redness, the episodes of flushing and blushing. Yes, it's a pain to have burning, stinging sensitivity. Yes, the bumps are annoying, but the treatments can help those go away. It's that persistent facial redness. So what exactly can you do? Well, you can't lay off the lifestyle factors that play into managing rosacea. There's not a cure for rosacea. It requires a proactive and ongoing approach to manage symptoms and to prevent it from recurring and from flaring. So that includes avoiding triggers. Now, I have videos all about common rosacea triggers, things like alcoholic beverages, sun, heat, certain medications, certain foods are big offenders for many people with rosacea, such as cinnamon, chocolate. Not to say everyone has problems with those foods, but they are common culprits. If you want to know more about the foods that trigger rosacea, I'm going to link my video all about this topic in the description box. While skincare products can only offer so much, I would say when it comes to rosacea, your skincare routine can quite literally make or break you, meaning if you use too many products, if you're too harsh with your routine, it can really aggravate your skin. But if you neglect your skincare, some of the underlying root cause issues behind rosacea are going to suffer. First and foremost, you want to stay consistent with cleansing. I suggest choosing a gentle cleanser to remove dirt, oil, sebum, cosmetic residue, which if left behind can contribute to irritation. It may actually also be a more favorable milieu for those little Demodex mites that we've talked about as a player in rosacea. But you've got to be careful with washing your face. If you wash your face with a harsh cleanser, you use an aggressive scrub, or you wash your face too frequently, well, that can disrupt your already impaired skin barrier and lead to more transepidermal water loss, burning, stinging, and guess what? Flares of the facial redness. So your cleansing habits have to be dialed in. I suggest washing your face once a day, ideally at nighttime, to remove cosmetic residue, dirt, debris from throughout the day. There are so many fantastic, mild, gentle cleansers out there. I often suggest the Vanicream Gentle Cleanser. The other thing that you want to be proactive about is consistently moisturizing your skin with a lightweight, hydrating moisturizer. Heavy moisturizers can sometimes get in the way of evaporation of sweat, make you feel overheated, and precipitate a flush. But moisturizing is important because, again, with rosacea, there is an impaired skin barrier, allowing for easier penetration of things that trigger flushing and blushing, as well as dryness from transepidermal water loss through that impaired barrier. Moisturizers can aid in replenishing moisture content, getting barrier recovery back on track, and they also help reduce water loss from the skin. You might want to choose a moisturizer with niacinamide or licorice root. These ingredients help calm down redness and can be very beneficial for rosacea because of that, along with their barrier supporting properties and their anti-inflammatory effects. However, if you don't get along with those ingredients and you just want a bare bones moisturizer, I suggest Vanicream's lightweight lotion. Very easy to tolerate on the face and can also be used on the body. It wouldn't be a video without me, without emphasis on sun protection, but this is really, really important. Ultraviolet radiation from the sun can trigger rosacea. It's a common trigger, including ultraviolet radiation that comes through window glass. So wearing a sunscreen regularly can really help you out, along with sun-protected behaviors like wearing a hat, seeking shade. There are two main types of sunscreens: chemical sunscreens and mineral sunscreens, otherwise known as organic and inorganic sunscreens. Unfortunately, a lot of the organic sunscreens, while they are more lightweight and hydrating, while they don't leave a white cast, they can burn and sting and aggravate rosacea for some people. The other option is to choose a mineral sunscreen with zinc or titanium dioxide. These tend to not burn, not sting. Unfortunately, they can be quite thick and pasty, and a lot of people don't like them. So there is actually a middle ground where you can go with a hybrid sunscreen. It has zinc, but it also has some chemical filters in it, but overall tends to be less likely to burn and sting, and also less likely to be thick, pasty, chalky, and less likely to leave a white cast. When it comes to sunscreen, the whole messaging around it is protecting you from ultraviolet radiation. Did you know, though, that ultraviolet radiation from the sun, while it is what leads to skin cancer and premature skin aging, it's actually only a small proportion of the total amount of energy that comes from the sun and hits our skin. A big chunk is visible light. If you have a medium to deep skin tone, high energy blue light wavelengths from sunlight can actually contribute to redness and hyperpigmentation. So that's something to factor in. So what I suggest is choosing a tinted sunscreen. The tint comes from iron oxides, and that can actually offer some protection against those wavelengths of visible light that come from the sun and contribute to redness and hyperpigmentation. Cetaphil has a anti-redness relief SPF 40 moisturizer. It's a mineral tinted sunscreen that is a great option for rosacea. I think they honestly made it with rosacea in mind. Not only is it a mineral sunscreen, which tends to be well tolerated, but it's tinted, so you get that visible light protection aspect. And it also has caffeine and licorice root. Both of those can help calm down redness. Now, admittedly, it is kind of thick, chalky, and it also is a tint that is not going to be acceptable for all skin tones. So the other one that I suggest is Neutrogena Pure Screen. It is a tinted mineral sunscreen, water resistant. That would be another great option, and it comes in light, medium, medium deep, and deep shades. But if you find those to be too chalky, not quite the right tint, I also suggest a hybrid sunscreen from Dermatology, DRMTLGY. This is a great everyday facial moisturizer, and it has niacinamide in it, which is good for the redness of rosacea and also helps to address the moisture barrier and calm down inflammation. Now, is there anything that can be applied to the skin that will help clear up the facial redness? Well, there are actually 2 FDA-approved topical medications for the redness aspect of rosacea. These medications are alpha agonists, and the way they work is they bind to receptors on blood vessels to cause them to shrink, so that makes the redness improve. While they are part of the same class of medications, the way they behave is a little bit different. So let's talk about them. First, you have one called bromonidine, sold under the brand name as Mervazo, but know the name bromonidine because it could be prescribed to you in some other branded way. Bromonidine acts very quickly when you apply it to the skin within about 30 minutes. However, one thing that happens to some people, they get kind of like an intense rebound worsening of the redness. Bromonidine wears off after 10 to 12 hours. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from people who use bromonidine for their redness is that it's a little bit too unnatural looking in that it clamps down more, I guess, intensely, and they get kind of a whitening effect where their skin looks pale, blanched. Then you have oxymetazoline. The brand name of this drug is Rofade. Oxymetazoline is a lot more gradual in its onset, and you get a peak reduction in redness after about 3 hours of it having been on your skin. That's really when you see, kind of maximum effects. So for example, you might want to put it on in the morning as part of your morning skincare routine, and then by the time you get to the office, maybe you have meetings and things, it's already taken effect and you have a reduction in redness. In contrast to bromonidine, oxymetazoline doesn't show that rebound worsening redness, and it is not it doesn't cause that over whitening effect either. Unfortunately, these medications often are not covered by insurance. They can be, but not always, and they can be expensive out of pocket. So sort of a little hack that can sometimes be an option is oxymetazoline is actually what is in over-the-counter Afrin nasal spray. So that's sort of like a less expensive dupe, if you will, of the prescription Rofade. Now, while most of the other prescription topicals primarily target the bumps, that's not to say that by targeting the bumps, they're not going to have any impact on facial redness. So if you look really carefully at the bumps of rosacea, they're often surrounded by redness. And so things like azelaic acid or doxycycline, topical ivermectin, all of these things help to primarily address the inflammation, the bumps, help clear up the bumps, but they don't help with that background redness. So just keep that in mind. They will help, however, with the redness around the bumps. It's certainly not a one and done thing when it comes to rosacea, and truthfully, using multiple treatments oftentimes can get the best results. And there is evidence that treating the facial redness, the background redness, early in conjunction with the other treatments that target the bumps can lead to optimal outcomes. Over the counter, in terms of stuff that you can buy, you have topical sulfur. You have Rosacea, which is kind of a lightweight gel, and you also have the De La Cruz sulfur mask. Both are great options. They calm down the inflammation and they help target those little bumps, which again, by targeting the little bumps, you kind of address the inflammation around them that leads to the perilesional redness. Azelaic acid is a topical medication that can be prescribed for rosacea, again, to address the little bumps, but you also can buy cosmetic products with azelaic acid. For example, the Paula's Choice Azelaic Acid Booster is a great option. In addition to the background redness, a lot of patients with rosacea will go on to develop prominent telangiectasias, those dilated blood vessels, often around the nose. What can get rid of that? Unfortunately, topicals don't really touch that at all. And once those develop, it's going to be light-based devices to clear those up, to target them, to seal them up with light-based energy so that they involute and go away. So for example, intense pulse light, IPL in other words, is an option. Also, pulse dye laser targets those dilated blood vessels and can also help with the background redness. And then a laser called KTP. Fun little tip though, if you are going for these, talk to your doctor about this, but a way to get maximum benefit out of these treatments is don't just go when your skin is like super clear and a good day. Try and actually get yourself to flush a bit right before the treatment. So sometimes we would have a patient go out and run laps around the parking lot to get a flush going, and that really helps the laser be more efficient at targeting the areas where you develop redness. The other thing that can be quite helpful, especially in addition to some of these other things that we've talked about, is you might be surprised to hear Botox actually can help with facial redness. And it's thought to work by reducing inflammation by inhibiting release of histamine from mast cells, mast cell degranulation, which sets off an inflammatory cascade. So if you're someone who has rosacea and you say get Botox for wrinkles, maybe you've noticed that things have started to improve since getting Botox. It could be that. The other topical for rosacea is actually tranexamic acid. Now, tranexamic acid, we think about more so for melasma. When we treat patients with a pill of tranexamic acid, it really can help their melasma out, the hyperpigmentation. Applying it to the skin may or may not help the hyperpigmentation, but really it does seem to shine as a topical remedy for redness with rosacea. And it may be because of its effects on the blood vessels, but it may also be a combination of its anti-inflammatory properties, along with the fact that it can really help an impaired skin barrier. So in clinic, we actually can make up our own topical tranexamic acid using the injectable type, just dilute it and give it to the patient. They can actually apply it directly to their skin with like a soaked pad. Alternatively, there are skincare products with tranexamic acid, and a really great affordable tranexamic acid serum is from the brand Minimalist. It's a great option, free of fragrance, and it also has salicylic acid, which may help smooth the skin surface as well as cut down on the fodder, if you will, for those Demodex mites. Skincare, it's only able to offer so much. No skincare product is going to completely melt away redness. It requires staying consistent with a routine as well as incorporating all the other lifestyle factors and staying consistent with the treatments that have been prescribed to you. It's really important to stay consistent with those prescribed treatments because they help control things. You see, think of rosacea almost like sitting down in a restaurant for a fancy meal, right? There are multiple courses to the meal. Same thing with rosacea. Instead of courses, you have different aspects of the rosacea. You have the bumps, you have the swelling, you have the sensitivity, you have the skin thickening that can happen in some cases. But you can't just pick and choose which aspects you want to treat. You really need to treat all of it, and you need to take a holistic approach. And there's no single treatment that is going to get rid of everything, just like there is no single utensil that you would be given to eat all of the courses. Can you imagine if you sat down at an expensive dinner and all they gave you was a butter knife? When it comes to managing your rosacea, you're going to need multiple utensils, and you're going to need to stay consistent to control all aspects of the rosacea, and ultimately that will change the course of your rosacea. It will scoot away from those recurrent flares of flushing, blushing that ultimately set the stage for, well, now persistent facial redness. All right, you guys, those are my tips, tricks, skincare product recommendations for persistent facial redness. I know it's really frustrating to deal with. I really hope this video was informative to you guys. Everything I mentioned will be linked in the description box. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.